This video is a short tutorial on getting started with Construct.net. Construct.net is a quick and easy way to get a game design, a game concept up and running so you can show people. Let's say that you're a game designer and you don't want to spend very much time on the coding aspect of things, but you just want to get your design down so you can show other people, or perhaps quickly design a game to show a customer. You can use Construct.net. Now that's not to say that there have been game developers that have released full games in Construct.net. And I'm going to go to my web browser now. So if you can switch to your browser, and everyone can still hear me, we're going to go to Construct.net. So in your URL bar there, type in Construct.net. And this is the main page here. You can see an example of a game that they have. And as you can see, there's a lot of graphics, a lot of drag and drop, and it's very visual. So once again, if you have an idea for a game, you can quickly create a prototype and then see how it's going to go. If you're not sure, you can get people to test it out. And now if you're a professional game designer, you might use this as a starting point. And then when you actually create the game, you're going to probably have to use the infrastructure or the platform that is for that particular device. So it might be an Android phone, an iOS phone, it might be a gaming console, and they have a specific set of programming language libraries that you have to use for that, or maybe it's just a PC, in which case you have different options when you make a game. But usually if you're working for a gaming company, I know some people that have worked for gaming companies or still do. You have to use their platform for their particular devices, or whatever the team is using. Everybody on the team has to use the same platform. Anyway, Construct 3 is a great way to get started. I'm going to ask you to register an account now. I've already registered an account, so I'm just going to log into my account down here. But click on the red register button if you haven't already. And I'm going to ask you to pause the video, create your account, and why don't you use your school account, so either your Google or your Microsoft account. Pause the video and come back when you've done that. All right, so everyone's back now, and you can see that I'm logged in, and I've been using this for a couple years now, so I have some random projects on here and some tutorials that we've been doing with a couple different classes. If you go to the Learn tab, there's under Tutorials, under Start here, there's something called the Beginner's Guide. And this is where we'll be starting in our next lesson. So in the Beginner's Guide, this is a full tutorial on making a top-down game where you can see here, if I scroll down a bit, here's the tiled background that the character will be using. And you're going to be able to see the character's head and maybe their shoulders. They'll be walking around. There's going to be some monsters floating around there. And you're going to have to hit those monsters with a snowball or a rock or something. And when you do make contact with that, maybe it's a baseball, then the monster will go away and you'll get a point. And if they touch you, you'll lose a life. And that's the basic program that we'd be making. The graphics look really good in Construct 3. It's a relatively new platform. If you've ever done Scratch, Scratch is really focused on elementary kids and maybe grade 9s and 10s as well. But it's really just, Scratch is just focused on getting the basics, not really worrying about the graphics. But Construct has been used in professional and semi-professional situations. There was a Canadian recording artist who, instead of making a video, commissioned somebody from Sheridan College, actually 2 people, and I had the chance to meet them on a field trip a year or 2 ago, and they showed us their project, and it was a full game. It looked very professional, and if you go to the artist's site, and I'll find out what the artist's name is, you can ask me, I'll tell you. Instead of seeing a video of their music, of their single, you click on it and it goes to this game, and the soundtrack to the game is their single. So it's an interactive music video, and it really looks like a professional game. They designed it so that anybody could play it and anybody could enjoy it, even if they're not a gamer. And it was something that was commissioned. They made a profit on it, and the musician, the artist, if you want to call them the artist, everyone's an artist now, was able to have something other than just a standard music video. All right, so this is going to be what we're using in the next lesson. But for now, click on your URL bar again and type in editor.construct.net. So editor.construct.net. This will take you to Construct's editor interface. So the user interface that allows you to create the game. You'll see that now it says that I'm a guest, so I'm going to have to log in again. So I'll click on login. If you have an account, you'll just type in your username and account, and notice you won't be able to create an account from here. But so log in, and now it says my name up there. I can look at all of my projects if I want from my cloud. So you can save everything to the cloud. We'll do that later, though. I'm going to create a new project, and I'm going to call it Intro. And the preset, you can select any preset you want. It's going to change the size of your viewport, and the viewport is what the person playing your game sees. Retro style is the least resolution, which is fine for a lot of things. Resolution means the number of pixels, or the number of smallest objects that are along the top and the sides. So a resolution is measured in pixels, and a pixel is the smallest block that you can see on the screen. If you were to take a magnifying glass to your screen, you'd see a whole bunch of rectangles on your screen, and a single pixel is one of those smallest blocks. You can't get any smaller than a pixel. You can color them differently. There's some tricks to make a pixel look like it's half colored by using shades of different colors. But with the retro style, you only get 320 across pixels, or rectangles across. Think of graph paper or grid paper. And then 180 going down. So that's usually enough for most, really basic games. But if you wanted to go all the way up to like a 4K game, you could do that. I'm going to highly recommend you don't do that for now. It's a lot more work to make it look good. And retro style is fine for us right now. Or SD. You can select SD, any of them. But I'm going to select retro style. Orientation, portrait, or landscape, I'm going to leave it, and then we'll see. I'm going to click on create, and you can see that this is my viewport. It's wider than it is long, so that's really good for a screen like a computer screen. So if I click on it, you'll see, whoops, if you double click on it, something else will happen. Just go to cancel. We won't talk about that yet. But if you just click on it, you'll see all the properties on the left-hand side. This is where your properties are. It'll show all the properties for that viewport. So it shows my layout, the size, 640 by 360. I can change that to 360. I'm going to reverse those numbers. 360 by 640. And then all of a sudden, you get something that would be more appropriate for a phone. And I can move around and zoom in and out by doing the following. I can press the Control key and then use my scroll wheel on my mouse to zoom in and out. So know how to do that. And the other thing I want you to know, let's say I have it zoomed in because I'm doing something with a lot of detail. Press the space bar and then move your mouse, and you'll be able to move your viewport around. I'm going to zoom back out though, so Control and then scroll out and then move it so you can see most of it. And it shows a dotted line to show you what's going to be shown at the beginning right now. That's the margin. No, the margins are over here. So that's your properties. In the middle is your viewport. In the right side is a tree or a hierarchical view of everything in your project. I'm going to click on the arrow here, and you'll see that it collapses everything. The arrow at the top where it says Intro collapses everything because Intro is my main project. If I click on it, it shows me all the and my properties have now changed to all the properties for my Intro project. If I click on that arrow again, it shows layout. So if I click on layout 1, it shows all my properties for layout 1. There's also something called event sheets and scripts, families. There's sound and music and all these other assets or attributes that you can change later on. Finally, at the bottom, we have something called layers. So to understand layers, maybe you've done Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator before, or maybe you have used some kind of graphical editing software that uses layers. If you haven't, that's okay. Think of an old overhead transparency where you have a transparency, your teacher might have used this, and then they draw on it, and you can see what they draw. But let's say you put another transparency over top. You can draw something else, and it won't affect the first layer. So this is what layers are all about. It's kind of like a sheet of glass or a sheet of clear plastic, and you can put several of them on top of each other, and they will be independent of one another. So it's really good. Maybe you want layer 0 at the bottom to have your background. Layer 1, maybe it has some things like houses and caves and other things in your landscape, and then maybe for your game. And then on top of that, maybe you have your character and the objects that they can collect. All right. And finally, up at the top here, we have layout and events. And this is in tabs. It does say buy now. You can buy Construct for a lot of money per year. It's not necessary. The only thing is a few things are limited, but for the purposes of our class, you won't run out of space due to the limitations. So you've been already in layout. If you click an event sheet, this is where you have an empty event sheet. You can put events and make those events part of the objects that you have. So maybe you have a main character on your screen. You want it to be able to move around. You want it to be able to jump. Those would be all considered different kinds of events. And you can have up to 30 events in your game, I believe, in the free edition, and that's enough for what we're doing. All right, so this has just been a basic introduction to constructs and the whole overall development environment. It's important to understand what each part does because you'll be using it shortly. All right, that's it for now. In our next video, we'll be doing a tutorial of making a top-down game.